The observation deck of the Serenity's Edge hummed with quiet efficiency. Ambassador Zephyr pressed her 6 delicate fingers against the transparent aluminum viewport, watching Earth spin slowly in the void below. Her silver skin shimmered, with nervous patterns of light, a dead giveaway to any Altarian that she was terrified. "The humans have accepted our invitation," announced Captain Krell from behind her. His massive frame filled the doorway, 4 arms crossed in what humans might recognize as skepticism. "Their delegation will arrive within the hour." Zephyr's breathing slits fluttered. "After 300 years of monitoring them from afar, we finally make contact. The Council of 7 Worlds chose us for this moment, because we're supposed to. Be the peaceful ones. The civilizers." "Indeed." Krell's voice carried the weight of someone who had seen too many wars. "Though I wonder if peaceful is what we'll need when dealing with them." On the viewing screen, archived footage played, silently. Humans in crude metal suits hurling themselves across bomb-cratered fields. Humans in flying machines diving toward certain death to stop their enemies. Humans with primitive weapons standing against impossible odds. "They're so young," Zephyr whispered. "Barely 10,000 years of civilization. We had expected them to be like the Kalari, philosophical, contemplative, or perhaps like the Genti, focused on art and beauty." The footage changed. A human female no bigger than Zephyr's forearm, dragging a wounded soldier twice her size away from an explosion. Her face was streaked with dirt and blood, but her eyes burned with something that made Zephyr's chest tighten. "Captain," came a voice over the comm. "The human vessel is requesting permission to dock." Krell straightened. "Granted. All departments, prepare for first contact protocols." As they watched, a sleek white shuttle approached their massive ship. It looked almost delicate compared to the Serenity's Edge, like a child's toy next to a monument. But there was something purposeful about its design, something that spoke of efficiency over beauty. "Sensors indicate 5 humans aboard," reported the tactical officer. 2 appear to be military personnel based on their bioelectric signatures. High-stress indicators, but curious. Their heart rates are elevated, but steady. No signs of fear. Zephyr found that disturbing. Any sane species would be terrified when meeting beings from beyond their world for the first time. The docking bay filled with a soft chime as the shuttle's airlock connected. On the security monitors, they watched 5 humans emerge. 2 wore dark blue uniforms with strange symbols and rigid postures. 2 others dressed in simpler clothes, one older human with white hair, another younger with intense dark eyes. The 5th was clearly their leader, a tall female with short cropped hair and scars visible on her hands. "Ambassador," the lead human spoke as the group entered the observation deck. Her voice was clear, confident. "I'm Colonel Sarah Chen representing Earth's United Nations. Thank you for inviting us to meet you." Zephyr activated her translation matrix and stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Zephyr of the Altarian Collective. Welcome aboard the Serenity's Edge. We come in peace, hoping to—" "Skip the pleasantries," interrupted one of the other humans, the one with dark eyes. "Dr. Marcus Webb, Xenobiology. We know you've been watching us. Our question is simple. Why now? What's changed?" The directness caught Zephyr off guard. Most species spent days on ceremonial greetings. That is, the Galactic Council decided that humanity has reached a level of technological development that— "The truth, Ambassador." Colonel Chen's voice carried an edge that made Captain Krell's hands move unconsciously toward his weapons. "We've detected your observation posts. We know about the probes you've been sending through our solar system for the past 50 years. You've been studying us like lab rats, so what changed? What made you finally decide to say hello?" Zephyr's skin patterns shifted to deep blue, embarrassment mixed with respect. These humans were far more perceptive than expected. "The truth," she said slowly, "is that something is coming, something that threatens all life in this sector of the galaxy. The Council believes that humanity might be uniquely suited to help us face it." The humans exchanged glances. The older one, with white hair, introduced as General Harrison, leaned forward. What kind of threat? Captain Krell activated the main display. The view screen filled with star charts showing a dark region spreading across several solar systems. We call them the Devourers, Krell rumbled. They consume entire worlds, leaving nothing but dead rock behind. They've destroyed 17 civilizations in the past century. 3 more have gone silent in the last 6 months. Dr. Webb studied the display with frightening intensity. Their expansion pattern, it's not random. They're moving with purpose, following trade routes, targeting population centers first. You understand quickly, Zephyr said, surprised. We're good at war, Colonel Chen replied simply. It's what we do. But I'm guessing that's not why you need us. The galaxy is full of species more advanced than humanity, more technologically sophisticated. So why us? This was the moment Zephyr had been dreading. How do you tell a species that you need them precisely because they're violent, because they're the only ones who might be crazy enough to fight something that can't be reasoned with? Because, she said carefully, every other civilization we've approached has the same response to the Devourers. They want to negotiate, to find a peaceful solution, to study them and understand their motivations. And that's not working, General Harrison observed. That's not working, Zephyr confirmed. The Devourers don't communicate. They don't negotiate. They don't even seem to notice when we try to make contact. They simply consume. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship systems. The humans were thinking. Zephyr could see it in their expressions, the way they unconsciously moved closer together, like pack animals preparing for a hunt. Show us the tactical data, Colonel Chen said finally. Everything you have. Ship configurations, weapons capabilities, battle footage if you have it. Colonel, Dr. Webb said quietly, we should consider Marcus. Her voice cut through his protest. They're not asking us to join a peace treaty. They're asking us to go to war against something that's already killed billions of sentient beings. She looked directly at Zephyr. Isn't that right, Ambassador? Zephyr's light patterns shifted to deep gold, a color that meant profound respect mixed with fear. Yes, she whispered. We're asking humanity to go to war. Because you're the only species in the galaxy that might actually win. As if summoned by her words, the ship's emergency alarms began to sound. Captain Krell's tactical officer rushed to his station, his face pale with shock. Captain, the officer called out. We're receiving a distress signal from the Kalari home system. It's gone silent, sir. All communications have ceased. On the main display, a red marker appeared over a star system barely 30 light-years from Earth. The Devourers were closer than anyone had realized. Colonel Chen looked at her team, then back at Zephyr. How long do we have? At their current rate of expansion, Captain Krell calculated grimly. They'll reach Earth in 18 months. Then we'd better get started, the colonel said, as if preparing for war against an unstoppable cosmic threat was just another day at the office. But as Zephyr watched the humans begin planning their impossible war, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just made a terrible mistake. Or perhaps the only choice that mattered. Chapter 2. The War Council, the conference room aboard the Serenity's Edge, had been hastily reconfigured for what the humans called a War Council. Ambassador Zephyr watched in fascination as the 5 humans transformed the elegant diplomatic space into something that looked more like a military command center. Colonel Chen stood at the head of the holographic display, pointing at tactical projections with the casual confidence of someone who had done this countless times before. Dr. Webb sat surrounded by data tablets, his dark eyes scanning through centuries of galactic intelligence reports. General Harrison spoke quietly into a communication device, somehow maintaining contact with Earth despite being thousands of kilometers away. The first thing we need to understand, Colonel Chen was saying to the assembled alien representatives, is that everything you know about warfare is wrong. Ambassador Kyreth of the Genti delegation, a tall ethereal being with crystalline features, flickered with what Zephyr recognized as indignation. Colonel Chen, we have been fighting defensive wars for over 2,000 years. We understand what— No, Dr. Webb interrupted, not looking up from his data. You understand defense, you understand survival. You understand retreating while minimizing casualties. He finally raised his head, and his gaze swept across the alien delegates. But you don't understand conquest. You don't understand taking ground and holding it at any cost. Captain Krell shifted uncomfortably. The Devourers cannot be conquered. They are not a traditional enemy with territory to claim or resources to capture. They simply consume and move on. Which is why, General Harrison said, ending his communication and joining the conversation, we're not going to fight them like a traditional enemy. He activated his own holographic display, showing Earth's solar system. I've been in contact with our military commands. The moment we return to Earth, we're mobilizing everything. Not just our military, our entire industrial capacity. Every factory, every resource, every human capable of holding a wrench or firing a weapon. That's impossible, stammered Ambassador Vorix of the Trade Consortium. No species has ever mobilized their entire civilization for war. The economic disruption alone would what? Colonel Chen asked. Destroy our economy? Collapse our social systems? She gestured toward the star chart showing the Devourers advance. What economy will we have if we're all dead? Zephyr found herself speaking without thinking. But surely there must be some way to coexist, to find a solution that doesn't require total war. The look Colonel Chen gave her was not unkind, but it was utterly alien to everything Zephyr understood about civilization. Ambassador, the Colonel said gently, let me tell you something about humans. We've been at war with something or someone for our entire recorded history. We've fought over land, resources, ideas, religions, and sometimes just because we didn't like each other's faces. We've committed terrible crimes and made horrible mistakes. But we've also learned something that no other species in this galaxy seems to understand. She paused, and Zephyr realized that every being in the room was hanging on her words. Sometimes, Colonel Chen continued, the only way to preserve peace is to be better at war than anyone else. The only way to protect what you love is to be willing to destroy what threatens it, completely, utterly, without hesitation or mercy. Dr. Webb brought up a new display, archived footage from Earth's history. Massive factories producing weapons at impossible speeds. Civilian populations working around the clock to support military efforts. Ordinary people making extraordinary sacrifices. During our Second World War, he explained, humanity produced over 4 million military vehicles in 6 years. We converted car factories to build tanks, transformed civilian aircraft plants into bomber production facilities. We had grandmothers welding ship hulls and teenagers manufacturing ammunition. The scale is unprecedented, admitted Captain Krell. No, General Harrison corrected him. The scale was exactly what was needed. When we fight, we don't fight to achieve a tactical advantage or secure a favorable negotiating position. We fight to win. Period. Ambassador Kyreth's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been discussed. This sounds less like civilization and more like barbarism. The room fell silent. Zephyr could see the humans exchange glances, and she realized that this was a criticism they had heard before, probably from each other. Maybe it is, Colonel Chen admitted. Maybe we are barbarians compared to the rest of the galaxy. But here's the thing about barbarians. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. She walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Every one of you represents a civilization that's thousands of years older than ours. You've mastered arts and sciences that we can barely comprehend. You've created societies based on wisdom, peace, and harmony. Turning back to face them, her expression was something Zephyr had never seen before. Pride mixed with sadness, determination tempered by regret. And now you're all going to die, Colonel Chen said simply. Unless the barbarians save you, the bow. Silence stretched until it was broken by an unexpected source. Captain Krell, the massive four-armed warrior who commanded the most powerful ship in the Allied fleet, began to laugh. It was a deep, rumbling sound that seemed to come from somewhere, deep in his chest. You know what the most frightening thing about humans is? He asked the room. It's not their weapons or their tactics or their willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. He looked directly at Colonel Chen. It's that they're right. Dr. Webb pulled up another display, the projected timeline of the Devourer's advance. Based on their current rate of expansion and the lack of effective resistance they've encountered, they'll reach the core worlds of the galaxy within 50 years. Every civilization, every world, every life form we know of will be consumed. Unless we stop them, added General Harrison. Unless we destroy them, corrected Colonel Chen. Ambassador Vorix raised a tentative appendage. What exactly are you proposing? What would this total war look like? The humans exchanged another of their wordless communications. Then Dr. Webb activated a new holographic display that made every alien in the room step back in shock. It showed a massive space-based construction project, something that dwarfed even the largest ships in the Galactic fleet. Weapons platforms, manufacturing facilities, and what appeared to be enormous engines capable of moving entire asteroids. We're going to build a war machine the size of a solar system, Dr. Webb explained calmly. We're going to turn every piece of matter in the asteroid belt into weapons, ships, or ammunition. We're going to create an industrial capacity that can outproduce anything the galaxy has ever seen. General Harrison pointed to specific sections of the projection. Mobile shipyards capable of producing a new destroyer every 6 hours. Automated mining operations that can strip an asteroid to its core in days. Weapons platforms that can sterilize an entire planet from orbit. And then, Colonel Chen added, we're going to take all of that, load it onto ships, and hunt down every single devourer in the galaxy. We're going to follow them back to wherever they came from, and we're going to make sure they never threaten anyone ever again. The scope of what they were proposing was beyond anything any galactic civilization had ever attempted. It was audacious, terrifying, and completely insane. The resource requirements alone, began Ambassador Kireth, will be provided by Earth and our colonial systems, interrupted General Harrison. We're not asking any of your worlds to sacrifice their economies or their people. We're asking for your technical knowledge, your star charts, and your intelligence on the Devourers. And in return? Asked Zephyr. Colonel Chen's smile was sharp as a blade. In return, we'll save the galaxy, whether it wants to be saved or not. Just then, the ship's communication system chimed with an urgent priority signal. Captain Krell moved to answer it, his expression growing darker with each word he heard. Report, he commanded. Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from the Kalari home system. A survivor ship has just arrived at the outer beacon. They're requesting immediate evacuation assistance for their remaining population. How many survivors? Asked Zephyr, dreading the answer. Approximately 12,000, Ambassador, out of a planetary population of 43 million. The number hit the room like a physical blow. The Kalari had been one of the oldest, most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, renowned for their philosophy, their art, their commitment to peaceful resolution of conflicts, and they had been almost completely erased in less than a week. Colonel Chen walked to the communication console. Patch me through to the survivor. Ship. Colonel, Captain Krell warned. They may not be in any condition to... Patch me through, she repeated firmly. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of what had once been a beautiful Kalari vessel. Now it was crowded with refugees, their normally pristine robes torn and stained. An elderly Kalari male appeared on screen, his large eyes dull with shock and grief. This is Colonel Sarah Chen of Earth's United Nations, she said, her voice gentle, but strong. We're organizing a response to the Devourer threat. Can you tell us what happened? The Kalari survivor looked at her for a long moment, as if trying to process the concept of someone actually fighting back. They came from the dark, spaces between stars, he said slowly. Ships like nothing we had ever seen. When we tried to communicate, they didn't even acknowledge us. They just began consuming our cities, our oceans, our atmosphere, everything. Did they show any tactical patterns? Asked Dr. Webb. Any vulnerabilities or consistent behaviors? They moved in perfect coordination, but not like a fleet, more like organs in a single body. When we destroyed one ship, the others adapted instantly. Our weapons that worked once never worked twice. Colonel Chen nodded grimly. Adaptive defense systems. They learn from every encounter. Which means, added General Harrison, we'll need to hit them with everything we have all at once. No second chances. The Kalari survivor looked confused. You're planning to fight them? But surely you understand that they cannot be defeated. They are a force of nature, like a storm or an earthquake. They simply are. No, Colonel Chen said firmly. They're an enemy, and enemies can be killed. As the transmission ended, Zephyr looked around the room at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. She could see the fear in their faces, the growing realization that everything they had built might be ending. But when she looked at the humans, she saw something different. Something that both terrified and inspired her. She saw hope. Chapter 3. The Forge of War. 6 months after first contact, Earth had transformed into something unrecognizable. Ambassador Zephyr stood on the observation deck of the Lunar Orbital Station, watching streams of ships move between Earth and the massive construction sites scattered throughout the solar system. The scale of what humanity had accomplished was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The humans have mobilized their entire species for war, reported Dr. Skeeth, her scientific advisor. His normally composed demeanor had been replaced by something approaching awe. Every factory, every mine, every educational institution has been converted to military production. Through the transparent aluminum viewport, Zephyr could see the largest construction project in galactic history. The humans called it simply the Forge, a massive space-based industrial complex that stretched across 3/4 of the asteroid belt. Automated mining platforms consumed entire asteroids, transforming raw materials into ships, weapons, and ammunition at a rate that defied comprehension. The production numbers don't make sense, Dr. Skeeth continued, consulting his datapad. They're building new vessels faster than some civilizations build ground vehicles. How is this possible? Because, came a familiar voice from behind them, we're not building them the way you build ships. Colonel Chen approached, her uniform now bearing the insignia of Supreme Commander of Allied Forces. Behind her walked Dr. Webb, whose dark eyes had developed a haunted quality over the past months. We're growing them, Dr. Webb explained, activating a holographic display. Automated assembly systems that can fabricate an entire destroyer in 18 hours. Self-replicating construction, protocols that expand our manufacturing capacity exponentially every week. The display showed the interior of the forge. Massive automated factories working around the clock, tended by robotic systems that built more of themselves as fast as they built ships. But the resource requirements, protested Dr. Skeeth. You're consuming raw materials faster than they can be extracted from the asteroid belt, Colonel Chen interrupted, which is why we've started mining the outer planet's moon systems, and after that we'll move to the Kuiper belt, then the Oort cloud. Zephyr felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's temperature controls. You're talking about dismantling your entire solar system for raw materials. If that's what it takes, Colonel Chen replied without hesitation. An alarm chimed softly, and Captain Krell's voice came over the communication system. Supreme Commander, we're receiving reports from our deep space reconnaissance drones. The Devourers have consumed the Genti home system. They're moving faster than projected. The holographic display shifted to show an updated star chart. The dark region representing Devourer expansion had grown significantly, now reaching uncomfortably close to several allied worlds. How long until they reach Earth? Asked Dr. Webb. At their current rate of acceleration, 14 months, Krell replied. But Commander, there's something else. Our drones recorded footage of the Genti system consumption. You need to see this. The display filled with images that made even Zephyr's hardened sensibilities recoil. Ships the size of moons, their surfaces covered in what looked like organic growth, systematically stripping away everything. Atmosphere, oceans, even the planetary crust itself. They're not just conquering, Dr. Webb observed quietly. They're feeding. The entire galaxy is nothing more than a food source to them. Colonel Chen studied the footage with the cold, analytical gaze that had become her trademark. Estimated mass of consumed material? Approximately 94% of the total system mass, Krell reported. They left behind only the star itself and some unusable metallic debris. Which means, the colonel continued, they're converting consumed matter into something else. Ships, more devourers, or energy for faster-than-light travel. Ambassador Kyrith materialized on the display via quantum communication link from her refugee fleet. The elegant crystalline being looked haggard, her normally perfect features marred by what humans might recognize as exhaustion. Supreme Commander, she said, I must protest the latest requests from your military engineers. They're asking for detailed schematics of our most advanced technologies, shield generators, faster-than-light drives, even our weapon systems. Yes, Colonel Chen replied simply. We need them. But these technologies took us millennia to develop. They're the foundation of our civilization, our culture. Your civilization is dead, Dr. Webb interrupted harshly. Your culture is extinct. Your people exist only as refugees fleeing an enemy that will eventually consume them, unless we can stop it first. The bluntness of his words caused Kyrith to flicker with what Zephyr recognized as deep emotional pain. But Colonel Chen's expression remained unchanged. Dr. Webb is correct, though perhaps less diplomatically than necessary, the colonel said. Ambassador Kyrith, we're not asking for your technology to steal it or profit from it. We're asking because we need every possible advantage to fight an enemy that has already proven it can adapt to any single approach. She gestured to the display showing the forge. Everything you see here, every ship, every weapon, every strategic advantage Tandy will be worthless if we can't stay ahead of their adaptation curve. We need technologies they haven't encountered before, combined in ways that have never been attempted. The humans are creating hybrid technologies, Dr. Skeeth added, consulting his notes. Combining Altarian shield generators with Kalari navigation, systems and human weapons platforms, the results are unprecedented. Show her the Prometheus class, Colonel Chen ordered. The display shifted to show a ship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was massive, nearly the size of a small moon, but its design was sleek and predatory. Weapons arrays covered its surface, and energy readings indicated power levels that approached those of a small star. The UES Prometheus, Dr. Webb explained. The first of our new heavy battleships. It carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet, shields that can withstand a direct hit from a stellar weapon, and engines that can cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. Impossible, breathed Kyrith. The power requirements alone would drain a civilization's entire energy output for decades. Not if you're willing to convert your entire industrial base to support it, Colonel Chen replied. We've built 17 of these ships in the past 3 months. We'll have 200 by the time the Devourers arrive. Zephyr realized she was trembling. The scale of human ambition was beyond anything she had imagined possible. They weren't just preparing to fight. The Devourers. They were preparing to fight them on a scale that dwarfed anything in galactic history. But at what cost? She found herself asking. Colonel, you're describing the complete militarization of human civilization. What happens to your art, your culture, your philosophy? What happens to the parts of humanity that make you worth saving? For the first time in months, Colonel Chen's expression softened slightly. She walked to the viewport, looking out at Earth in the distance. Ambassador, 3 days ago my daughter would have started her first year at university. She was going to study music. She wanted to compose symphonies that could be heard across the galaxy. The colonel's voice carried a weight that spoke of profound personal sacrifice. Instead, she's working 16-hour shifts in a weapons manufacturing facility. Because if we lose this war, there won't be any universities left. There won't be any music. There won't be anything. Dr. Webb moved to stand beside her. We're not abandoning our humanity, Ambassador. We're fighting to preserve it. Sometimes the only way to save what you love is to temporarily become something you hate. The irony, added Captain Krell over the comm, is that humanity is becoming the most militarized species in galactic history in order to save civilizations that have spent millennia trying to move beyond military solutions. Maybe that's the point. Colonel Chen mused. Maybe the galaxy needed someone who was still willing to be monsters in order to fight the real monsters. Just then, the station's emergency alarms began blaring. Dr. Skeeth rushed to his communication console, his face pale with shock. "Supreme Commander," he called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Deep Space Monitor Station 7. They've detected movement in empty space, something massive approaching from the direction of the former Zenti system." The main display automatically shifted to long-range sensors. In the deep black of space, something was moving toward them. Something impossibly vast, surrounded by a cloud of smaller objects that registered as individual ships. "Distance?" asked Colonel Chen, her voice immediately shifting back to military command mode. "Approximately 40 light-years and closing," Dr. Skeeth reported. "But Commander, the size readings, they can't be correct. The primary mass is registering as larger than most planets." Colonel Chen and Dr. Webb exchanged a look that spoke of conversations and preparations Zephyr had never been privy to. "They're coming," Dr. Webb said quietly. "Earlier than projected, faster than expected, and bigger than we anticipated," added the Colonel. She turned to address the communication system. "All stations, all ships, all commands. This is Supreme Commander Chen. Alert status Omega. Repeat. Alert status Omega. The Devourers are coming." As alarms echoed through the station, Zephyr watched the humans transform once again. The brief moment of introspection was gone, replaced by the cold efficiency of a species that had been preparing for this moment for their entire history. "How long do we have?" she asked. Colonel Chen was already moving toward the command center, her staff falling into formation around her. "At their current speed, they'll reach the outer solar system in 72 hours. "And we'll be ready?" Zephyr called after her. The Colonel paused at the doorway, and when she looked back, her expression was something Zephyr had never seen before. Not quite human, not quite alien, but something altogether more dangerous. "Ambassador," Colonel Chen said, "we've been ready for war since the day we learned to make fire. The only question is whether the galaxy is ready for what we're about to become." As she disappeared into the command center, Zephyr was left staring out at the forge, watching humanity's war machine prepare to face an enemy that had consumed civilizations across the galaxy. And for the first time since this all began, she found herself wondering if the real monsters weren't the ones coming from space. Chapter 4: The Hour of Reckoning. The command bridge of the UES Prometheus had been designed by human engineers with input from the greatest military minds of 7 different species. It was a marvel of integrated technology and tactical efficiency. But as Supreme Commander Chen stood at its center, watching the tactical displays update in real time, she knew that all their preparation might not be enough. "Devourer fleet has entered the outer solar system," reported Commander Singh from the sensor station. "Main force is maintaining position behind Neptune's orbit, but advanced scouts are probing our defensive perimeter." The main holographic display showed the entire solar system transformed into a fortress. Weapons platforms floated in carefully orchestrated formations. The forge had been reconfigured into a massive battle station, its industrial capacity now focused entirely on producing ammunition and replacement ships in real time. Earth itself was surrounded by a sphere of defensive installations that made it look like a metallic planet. "How many?" asked Dr. Webb, who had insisted on being present for the battle despite having no formal military role. "Conservative estimate: 40,000 individual ships ranging from destroyer to dreadnought class," Singh replied. "Plus the primary mass, designation mothership, which is approximately 12,000 kilometers in diameter." Ambassador Zephyr, now serving as liaison between human command and the surviving galactic civilizations, felt her breathing slits constrict. 12,000 kilometers? That's larger than Earth. "And it's not a ship," added Dr. Webb, studying the sensor readings. "It's alive. Biological readings, organic architecture, neural networks that span its entire structure. We're not fighting a fleet commanded by the mothership. We're fighting a single organism with 40,000 smaller parts." Colonel Chen absorbed this. information with the same calm efficiency she had shown throughout the war preparations. Does that change our strategy? Actually, it makes it simpler, Dr. Webb replied. Kill the brain, and the body dies. But the brain is buried somewhere inside 12,000 kilometers of hostile alien flesh that can learn from every attack we throw at it. Captain Krell's massive form filled one of the communication screens. His ship, the Serenity's Edge, had been retrofitted with human weapons and now served as flagship for the alien refugee fleet. Supreme Commander, he reported, our scouts confirm what your sensors are showing. The Devourers are not approaching like a conventional fleet. They're moving like a single organism. Perfect coordination, no wasted motion, absolute tactical efficiency. Any sign of the adaptation protocols we observed in the archived footage? Chen asked. Not yet. But they haven't encountered serious resistance. The automated defense platforms they've encountered so far have been easily overwhelmed. Chen nodded grimly. The automated platforms had been designed to be overwhelmed. They were intelligence-gathering tools disguised as defenses, meant to force the Devourers to reveal their capabilities before the real battle began. What have we learned? She asked. Dr. Webb, their energy shields operate on rotating frequencies. They change defensive configurations every few seconds to prevent sustained attack on any single vector. Their weapons appear to be some form of directed energy that can adapt its properties based on the target's defensive measures. And most importantly, he paused, consulting his datapad. They're not just consuming matter for resources. They're consuming information. Explain, Chen ordered. Every time they destroy one of our platforms, they spend several minutes apparently studying the debris, not salvaging, studying. They're learning from every encounter, analyzing our technology, our tactics, our capabilities. Ambassador Kyreth's crystalline form appeared on another communication screen. Supreme Commander, the refugee fleets are requesting permission to withdraw to the outer system. If this battle is lost, it won't be, Chen interrupted firmly. But if it is, running won't save you. They've consumed 17 civilizations across half the galaxy. There's nowhere to hide. Then what do you propose? Chen walked to the central command console, her hands moving across tactical controls with practiced efficiency. We're going to do what humans have always done when faced with an enemy we can't outfight, outsmart, or outrun. Which is? Asked Zephyr. The main display shifted to show the human battle formation. Unlike the elegant symmetrical arrangements favored by Galactic naval doctrine, the human fleet was scattered in seemingly random patterns throughout the inner solar system. We're going to cheat, Chen replied. Dr. Webb smiled for the first time in months. Show them the surprise, Commander. Chen activated a new display, revealing something that made every alien observer step back in shock. Hidden within the asteroid, belt camouflaged among the mining operations and industrial platforms, were hundreds of massive structures that definitely weren't factories. Stellar manipulation devices, Dr. Webb explained. We've been modifying our sun's output for the past 6 months, building up solar energy in controlled magnetic containment fields. You've weaponized your star? Kyreth's voice carried a tone of horrified fascination. We've prepared to weaponize our star, Chen corrected. If conventional weapons fail, we can trigger a controlled solar flare directed at the Devourer mothership. The energy release would be equivalent to approximately 50,000 of our most powerful nuclear weapons. And if that doesn't work? Asked Captain Krell. Chen's expression became something that belonged on a predator, not a diplomat. Then we trigger an uncontrolled solar flare and take the Devourers with us. If we can't save the galaxy, we'll make sure they can't consume it. Either. The bridge fell silent as the implications of what she was suggesting settled in. Humanity was prepared to destroy their own solar system, their homeworld, their entire civilization, rather than allow the Devourers to add Earth's resources to their cosmic hunger. Commander, Singh called from his station. The Devourer advance. Scouts are engaging our outer perimeter defenses. First contact in 30 seconds. All ships, battle stations, Chen commanded. Her voice carried across every human vessel in the solar system, reaching nearly 2 million souls who had spent the last year preparing for this moment. The tactical display erupted into light as the first wave of Devourer scouts engaged the outer defensive ring. Human weapons platforms opened fire with coordinated precision, their attacks timed to overwhelm the Devourer's adaptive shields through sheer volume of fire. First wave results, Singh reported. 60% of Devourer scouts destroyed, but they're adapting faster than projected. Second wave will be significantly more resistant to our current weapon configurations. Execute Protocol Omega-7, Chen ordered calmly. Dr. Webb's fingers flew across his console. Weapon frequency rotation initiated. Every platform is now cycling through 17 different energy signatures. They'll have to adapt to all of them simultaneously. The second wave of Devourer ships hit the human defenses like a tsunami of alien metal and hostile intelligence. But this time, the human weapons kept changing, shifting, evolving their own tactics even as the Devourers tried to learn from them. Brilliant, breathed Captain Krell over the comm. You're out-adapting the adapters. It won't work forever, Dr. Webb warned. They're learning exponentially. Each failed adaptation makes the next one faster. Then we'd better make this count, Chen replied. She opened a channel to every ship in the human fleet. All vessels commence Operation Wildfire. Time to show them what humans do best. What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries, if any survived to write the histories. The human fleet didn't engage the Devourers in traditional battle formations. Instead, they scattered like leaves in a hurricane, each ship following seemingly random vectors that made no tactical sense. They're hurting the Devourers, Zephyr realized, watching the tactical display with growing amazement. Every human ship is moving in a pattern designed to drive the enemy fleet toward specific coordinates. Not just hurting, Dr. Webb corrected. Guiding. The Devourers think they're pursuing scattered prey, but we're leading them exactly where we want them to go. On the display, 40,000 Devourer ships were being subtly maneuvered toward a seemingly empty region of space between Mars and Jupiter. They moved with perfect coordination, their mothership following behind like a massive predator confident in its ability to consume whatever lay ahead. How much longer? Chen asked. 30 seconds to optimal positioning, Singh reported. All Devourer forces will be within the target zone in Mark. The space between Mars and Jupiter suddenly erupted with energy signatures that registered off the scale of every sensor in the solar system. What the Devourers had thought was empty space was actually filled with thousands of human vessels that had been running completely silent. Their power systems shut down, their crews breathing recycled air and waiting in the cold dark of space. Surprise, Shen said quietly, and pressed a single button. Every human ship in the trap zone activated simultaneously. Weapons that had been charging for hours unleashed their fury in a coordinated barrage that lit up space like a newborn star. The Devourers, caught completely off guard, found themselves taking fire from every direction at once. But the real surprise wasn't the ambush. It was what the ambush revealed. Energy feedback from the mothership, Dr. Webb reported, his voice tight with excitement. The smaller ships aren't independent vessels, they're extensions of the central organism. When we destroy them, the mothership feels it. How much does it feel it? Chen asked. Based on neural activity readings, it's in pain. Significant pain. For the first time since the war began, Chen smiled. Then let's give it something to really scream about. All ships target the smaller vessels, death of 1,000 cuts. The human fleet abandoned all pretense of traditional naval combat. Instead of targeting the most dangerous enemy ships first, they focused on the smallest, weakest Devourer vessels, not to eliminate threats, but to inflict maximum suffering on the mothership. It's working, Singh reported. The mothership is moving erratically, its coordination is breaking down. The remaining smaller ships are losing tactical cohesion. But the Devourers weren't helpless. As they realized what was happening, the mothership began to adapt in ways that defied comprehension. Its surface rippled and changed, growing new weapon systems in real time. Energy discharges began reaching across impossible distances, turning human ships to vapor with single shots. Casualties? Chen asked tersely. 18% of our fleet destroyed, 23% damaged, Singh replied. But we've eliminated over 60% of the smaller Devourer vessels. The mothership is accelerating toward Earth, warned Captain Krell. At current speed, it will be within our planetary defense perimeter in 40 minutes. Chen nodded grimly. Phase 2, all remaining ships fall back to Earth orbit. Make them follow us. Commander, Dr. Webb said quietly. Are you sure about this? Once we activate the solar arrays, we'll find out if we're clever enough to save the galaxy or just stubborn enough to take our enemies with us when we die, Chen replied. Either way, the Devourers learn that humanity doesn't go quietly. As the human fleet retreated toward Earth, drawing the wounded but still massive Devourer force behind them, Ambassador Zephyr found herself thinking about the first time she had met these strange, violent beings. She had thought they were barbarians then, primitive creatures who solved problems with force because they lacked the wisdom for more elegant solutions. Now, watching them prepare to sacrifice their own star system to stop an enemy that had consumed half the galaxy, she realized she had been both completely right and utterly wrong. They were barbarians, but sometimes the galaxy needed barbarians. All ships in position, Singh reported. Mothership entering the inner solar system. Solar collection arrays are fully charged and ready for activation. Chen looked around the bridge one last time, at the faces of the humans and aliens who had worked together to reach this moment. Dr. Webb, whose brilliance had made their weapons possible. Commander Singh, whose tactical genius had guided their fleet. Ambassador Zephyr, whose people had trusted humanity with the fate of galactic civilization. Captain Krell, whose warrior's honor had united the refugee fleets behind human command. Any last words? She asked quietly. Yes, said Dr. Webb. Thank you, all of you, for trusting us to do what had to be done. Chen nodded and opened a channel to every human ship, every alien vessel, every soul in the solar system who was about to witness either salvation or apocalypse. This is Supreme Commander Chen to all allied forces. Today we make our stand. Today we show the universe that some things are worth fighting for, and some enemies are worth dying to stop. For Earth, for the galaxy, for every civilization that came before us and every one that might come after. She paused, looking out at the Devourer mothership as it approached Earth like a malevolent moon. Fire, she commanded. And the sun itself answered. Epilogue. After the fire. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul. The observation deck of the newly constructed Unity station was quiet, except for the soft hum of life support systems. Ambassador Zephyr stood at the viewport, watching the slow work of reconstruction taking place throughout what remained of the human solar system. Earth was still there, still blue and green and beautiful, but everything else had changed. The asteroid belt was gone, consumed entirely during the war effort. Mars bore the scars of massive industrial construction, the remnants of weapon manufacturing that had operated around the clock for months. And where Jupiter had once orbited, there was now only empty space and the slowly dissipating energy signatures of the most destructive battle in galactic history. The damage assessment reports are in, said Dr. Webb, approaching from behind. He looked older now, aged by responsibility and the weight of what they had all witnessed. The solar flare worked. The Devourer mothership was completely destroyed, along with all remaining smaller vessels. And the cost? Zephyr asked, though she already knew the answer would be devastating. 43% of our fleet destroyed, over 2 million human casualties. The industrial infrastructure of the outer solar system will take decades to rebuild. He paused, joining her at the viewport. But we won. The Devourers are gone. Not just from this system, but from the galaxy. Our deep space monitors confirm that their expansion has stopped completely. Zephyr nodded slowly. The victory had been absolute, but the price had been almost beyond comprehension. An entire species had transformed itself into an instrument of war, sacrificed its economy, its culture, its peaceful future, all to stop an enemy that no one else had been able to face. What happens now? She asked. To humanity, I mean. You've built the most powerful military force in galactic history. You've proven that you can defeat any enemy, overcome any obstacle. What do you do with that power?" Dr. Webb was quiet for a long moment, considering the question. "We remember why we fought," he said finally. "We remember that we didn't become warriors because we wanted to conquer the galaxy. We became warriors because we wanted to save it." The door to the observation deck opened, and Colonel Chen, now Grand Admiral Chen, commander of the new Galactic Defense Fleet, entered. She had been meeting with representatives from dozens of worlds, all eager to establish formal diplomatic relations with the species that had saved them from extinction. "The Council of Seven Worlds has officially requested that humanity take permanent responsibility for galactic security," she reported. "They're offering us resources, technology, even territory in exchange for a guarantee that we'll protect them from future threats." "And your response?" asked Zephyr. Chen joined them at the viewport, looking out at the stars that now seemed somehow less hostile than they had 6 months ago. "We told them we'd consider it, but only if they agree to our conditions, which are: first, every species contributes to their own defense. No more pure pacifist civilizations that expect someone else to fight their wars. Second, we establish a joint military academy where humans train alongside aliens, and aliens learn from human tactical doctrine. Third, any species that joins the alliance agrees to maintain military readiness, not for conquest, but for protection." Dr. Webb smiled slightly. "We're turning the entire galaxy into honorary humans." "Not humans," Chen corrected. "Warriors. There's a difference. We're teaching them that sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be prepared for war." "Ambassador." Kyreth materialized via holographic communication, her crystalline form now bearing new ornamental patterns that Zephyr recognized as symbols of profound respect. "Grand Admiral," Kyreth said, "I bring word from the refugee fleets. The survivors of 17 civilizations have voted unanimously to accept humanity's terms for the new alliance. We understand now that our way of thinking was flawed. Beautiful, perhaps, but flawed." "There was nothing wrong with wanting peace," Chen replied gently. "The mistake was thinking that wanting it was enough to guarantee it." "Indeed," Kyreth agreed. "My people spent 2,000 years perfecting the arts of diplomacy and conflict resolution. But we never learned what to do when faced with an enemy that could not be reasoned with, negotiated with, or understood." "That's what we're for," Dr. Webb said. "Humans will handle the unreasonable enemies. You handle the reasonable ones." "Captain." Krell's massive form appeared on another communication screen. He was aboard his ship in the outer system, leading patrols to ensure that no remnants of the Devourer force had survived. "Grand Admiral," he reported, "our long-range sensors have detected something you need to see. Deep space, approximately 200 light-years from here. The main display activated, showing sensor readings from the edge of known space. Energy signatures, massive construction projects, signs of industrial activity on a scale that rivaled what humanity had built during the war." "Another threat?" asked Zephyr, feeling a familiar chill. "No," Krell replied, and his voice carried something that might have been amusement. "These are human energy signatures, human construction techniques. It appears that your species has established a forward base at the galaxy's edge." Chen and Dr. Webb exchanged glances. "We may have forgotten to mention," Dr. Webb said carefully, "that during the war we sent several exploration fleets beyond the galactic rim, just in case we needed somewhere to retreat to if Earth fell." "And now?" asked Zephyr. "Now they're building something out there," Chen admitted. "Something big. A place where human civilization can continue to grow and develop, far from the politics and complications of the inner galaxy. A backup plan," Zephyr realized. "Even in victory, you're preparing for the next threat." "There's always a next threat," Chen replied matter-of-factly. "The Devourers were just the first test. Somewhere out there in the dark spaces between galaxies, there are other things waiting, other challenges that will require solutions that no reasonable civilization would ever consider." She turned from the viewport to face the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. "That's what humans are for," she continued. We're the species that prepares for unreasonable problems with unreasonable solutions. We're the ones who will do whatever it takes, pay any price, make any sacrifice to protect what we believe is worth protecting. And what do you believe is worth protecting? Asked Ambassador Kyreth. Chen smiled, and for the first time in months, it was a genuinely human expression. Warm, complex, touched with both sadness and hope. Everything, she said simply. Every world, every species, every work of art, every child's laugh, every sunset over an alien sea, all of it. That's what we fight for. That's what we'll always fight for. As the various communications ended and the representatives returned to their duties, Zephyr remained at the viewport with Dr. Webb. They watched the slow traffic of ships, moving between Earth and the construction sites scattered throughout the system. Humanity already rebuilding, already preparing, already looking toward the future with the same determination that had carried them through the war. They terrify me, Zephyr admitted quietly. Even now, even knowing that they saved us all, they terrify me. They should, Dr. Webb replied. They terrify us too sometimes. The capacity for violence, for total commitment, for absolute sacrifice. It's not something you can turn off when the war ends, it's part of who we are now. And yet, Zephyr mused, I can't imagine the galaxy without them anymore. After seeing what they're capable of, how could any of us face the future alone? Dr. Webb nodded. That's the real victory, isn't it? Not just that we defeated the Devourers, but that we proved something important about cooperation between species. We proved that sometimes the galaxy's best hope comes from its most unlikely source. Through the viewport, Earth continued its ancient rotation, serene and eternal. But around it, the infrastructure of war was slowly transforming into something new. Not weapons of destruction, but tools of exploration, construction, and protection. Humanity had gone to war to save the galaxy. Now they faced the more difficult task of learning to live in the peace they had won. But as Dr. Webb watched, the ships moving through space with purposeful efficiency, he wasn't worried about humanity's ability to adapt. After all, adaptation was what they did best. Somewhere in the depths of space, beyond the edge of the galaxy, human ships were already preparing for whatever came next. Because there would always be a next threat, a next challenge, a next impossible problem that would require an impossible solution. And when that moment came, the galaxy would be ready. Because now it had humans. End.